well, I'm not going to stoop to that level when I see some things. It's kind of like, okay, I think higher of you. How can you continue to prove yourself as that person?
Welcome to Clicks and Bricks Podcast. We talk about the entrepreneur mindset.
If you get one shot at this, what kind of shot are you going to take?
If we forget who we are, they're going to forget who you are.
And you've got an adversity story that's out of this world.
Everything from that Main Street brick and mortar to that billion-dollar manufacturer.
How you doing today, Lana?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you for joining us. We're so excited to hear your story. Can you tell us is it Level 101 or?
Yeah, Level 101 Hair Studio.
Level 101 Hair Studio. And where's that located at?
It's in Deep Ellum in Dallas.
Dallas, Texas?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. How long have you been doing that?
For about 4 years now.
4 years? And you're the owner and founder, correct?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yes.
Can you tell the audience just a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and just a little bit about you?
Okay. So I grew up in Dallas. I've been here my whole life, and I've been doing hair been in the hair industry for 12 years, been licensed for 10. And, I really love what I do. I kind of hopped around different salons trying to find, honestly, like just a good place to like work with your friends, and unfortunately hair salons, especially back in the day, just kind of had a toxic, like competitive, like I'm better than you kind of environment, know? And, I wanted to have a space that was just more inclusive, that, you could get an undercut and a bob, or, guys with balayage, or, different things like that, so having a different space, just to be more inclusive for whatever someone might want.
Are you saying more inclusive for the staff or for the members or your guests? I guess.
Honestly, both.
Okay.
Both, I wasn't feeling at home, like, when your client leaves and then someone says something and you're like, okay, well, I'm like that too,
Right.
So it's definitely a more collaborative kind of environment. We get better together kind of vibe.
Right. I guess I had a perception of hair salons of kind of the girls are goofing off together during the day while they're between clients and stuff, and I just never imagined how competitive it could be for clients and things like that. And I've never worked in a hair salon. I do go to the hair salon, but not what you would normally. I go to a barber mostly.
Yeah.
But not very frequently. Just it's a treat for me to go and get my head shaved by somebody else.
Yeah.
Once in a while. So that's really, really cool. I've done very similar stuff in my life with some of my businesses to really lean on inclusiveness, right? Which is huge. And I'm assuming that in today's world, there's a lot of gender bias and a lot of gender things happening in our community, in our world today, that all inclusiveness is probably even more important today than it's ever been.
Oh, absolutely. There's your outward representation is so much of a reflection of everything here,
Right.
and it's really cool to get to be a part of helping people create outwardly how they want to present,
Right. Absolutely. When I was young, I was in the entertainment industry, and I had stuff like purple mohawks and, red hair and green hair and purple hair and all those things. It was not very long, and that's probably why I lost it, because I didn't take very good care of it. But, my daughter, and that was, in the, the punk rock era and all that great stuff that I very much enjoy, and I get it. And, I've got a 15-year-old daughter that wants what would traditionally be considered a boy's cut, short with parted on the side. And I think she's kind of freaking out because I'm embracing. I'm like, you be you, kid. Like, whatever, your hair will grow back. Like, whatever you want to do with it. Like, you just enjoy your life and don't worry about what other people think. And her friends are, our friends' parents aren't quite. Some are way supportive, and then some of them are like, no, you can't have a boy's haircut because you're a girl, kind of stuff. So I applaud what you're doing. It's important, and in today's society, I think right on the mark where you need to be. Maybe 4 years ago was maybe a little early to be thinking about that kind of thing.
It was definitely a little bit on the early side about 4 years ago, but honestly, it really felt like when quarantine happened, it really made people sit down for the first time and really look at who they are versus how society views how they are. And there were a lot of people that were like, oh, I'm non-binary, I'm queer, I'm whatever. I'm so sorry, I'm realizing how dark I look, so I was like,
oh, you're good.
Hang on, let me so you had a lot of people coming out and shaving their heads and doing all kinds of different things, and it's so true. Like, hair doesn't have a gender, clothes don't have a gender, and it's art, it's an expression, and it's really cool to get to be a part of that. It was definitely interesting 4 years ago, but I'm really stoked to be a part of that now.
Yeah, I mean, hair has been used for peacocking forever, right? And now we just get to do it in all kinds of cool new ways. And I like the fact that you say, it doesn't have a gender. Clothes don't have a gender. They don't. Yeah. Absolutely not. And 4 years ago, you were probably having to try to explain a little bit about what you're doing, but it's almost like the pandemic was, we went into hibernation and shed our skin and came back out as all new people, which
literally.
I think we're trying to figure out how to get back into society and back in the daily hustle of things.
With our new selves.
Yes, and everybody's hopefully trying to accommodate everybody's needs and desires and making happy work environments, which is a struggle on both sides of that fence. But I applaud you for heading down that path. Was there something very specific other than the that toxic kind of work environment that you wanted to leave at the table? Was there something other than creating a non-toxic work environment that
for sure
pushed you into doing your own studio?
Totally. Well, like when you do anything, there's a push and a pull, and that was definitely kind of the push of like, I need to find a new space. But definitely the pull was, at the time, I've had short hair for years. At the time I had an undercut and a bob, and it was really annoying to have to go to a barber and then to a stylist. And I was just like, I was lucky that it was on the same street I could kind of like walk to, but it was just really annoying. And it was like, okay, what if we had a space?
So they not do an undercut
both?
And a bob at the same place?
Honestly, a lot of stylists are really nervous to use clippers, and it's so much of the industry was, fake it till you make it. And I'm not about that. I'm like, if you don't know, say you don't know. If you're not the stylist for them, yeah, literally. And so I know it's like, it seems really obvious, but at the time and for years, that hasn't been the vibe of like fake it till you make it. And that's why you end up with some weird haircuts and some mistakes. But
sometimes they're happy accidents, but
totally.
Oddly enough, and I never even knew why. My wife has a bob, and I do her undercut.
Oh, nice.
And I never even asked her, like, why don't you just do all this together? She's just like, once a week or every week, she's like, hey, will you hit my undercut for me?
Yeah.
And I guess because I'm a guy and I've been shaving my head and all kinds of crazy stuff my whole life, I'm just like, I can do that really quick. So that's interesting. So for women, that's traditional studio isn't an option for them?
Not really. A lot of stylists are nervous to use clippers, or they can just do like a one, and I wanted it like faded. I wanted a taper fade. And so that was something that was not in their skill set. And something that's definitely different with my space is everyone has a different specialty. it's not kind of like the salon that you go into and it's just like, it looks like a factory line and it's beautiful, but
Right.
it's a beautiful factory line, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's a place for that, but there are fewer places like mine. And so it definitely has more of a collaborative, like, hey, that's really cool. How did you
Okay.
do that? Like,
So, are you running your hair salon more like a tattoo studio?
kind of, yeah. Honestly, a lot of people, like, when they pass by, they think it's a tattoo studio, and then they see the
Okay.
barber chairs in the front. They're like, no, it's a barber shop. And then they see someone with foils, and they're like, is it a hair salon?
Okay. So it's just a self-improvement place, right?
For sure.
You go in there
For
and you get
sure.
fancied up. Fantastic. So creating a space that's non-toxic, that is collaborative, is challenging, right? Because you have to hire people, you have to have people in the seats, and you're always hiring. And when you hire somebody, they're not the same person that they are when they're working for you very frequently, right? They're putting on their best face. And I think as a hiring person, you know that. You kind of just expect that, but also you're trusting and you just take a lot at face value. When you get somebody in there that is maybe, not necessarily, I find when toxicity comes from small things happening over and over
Yes.
repeatedly, like very small,
Yes.
not necessarily negative comments, but almost discrediting comments is how it
Yeah.
generally starts. How do you diagnose that when that negativity starts, and how do you address it? Do you, try to, get the employee to see a better light, or is it just I've been down this negative path too many times. I'm gonna pull the ripcord and get somebody else.
I like that question. I like that question. It's kind of a two-part thing. Hiring is a lot like dating. And so even and I kind of take a different approach. I initially, before I did hair, I had a corporate background. So, and I did a lot of the hiring back then, but now it's, my favorite questions that I like to ask are like, what album or what artist could you listen to and never get sick of? Because you're going to be here a lot and you're going to hear the same music and you're going to get tired of it,
Right.
So there's that. There's, the initial, let me meet you, get to know who you are. And sometimes, I'm sure a lot of people who have done interviews know this, but this was entertaining for me. Like when you ask someone a question, and really I'm just asking it to see how you are when you squirm. Like, how uncomfortable can you be? Like, how uncomfortable, like, are you okay saying no?
Right.
And then going forwards, like in the shop, of it's not so much of a, well, I'm not going to stoop to that level when I see some things. It's kind of like, okay, I think higher of you. How can you continue to prove yourself as that person? Like,
Right.
I know that you can continue to, like, girl, that was, I understand you were frustrated, but I was kind of catty, and we don't play that. And
Right.
so it just kind of goes in there, like, you're right, and I'm sorry, I should have said this instead, and just kind of coaching, because a lot of it is like, so much of hair, like, you're a body worker, you're working on people.
Right.
And
With an
it's
immediate result, like a tattoo. Like,
oh yeah,
fitness is this long standing
tenured,
result, but
yeah,
you're going to have a result like
couple
even
hours,
like
30 minutes, yeah.
Yeah. For me, it's 10. But
Bust that foil shavers.
yeah.
Yeah, it's because it really is like a lot of just like life coaching. And because you as a stylist are a product of your work, the more that you work on yourself, the more authentic that you are with yourself, the better that you will be at helping someone else make that journey.
Right.
Honestly, I know it's kind of a side thing. Even as I came out as non-binary, I noticed my haircuts got better. It was kind of like, oh, I never would have put these two together.
Right.
And you hear what people are trying to say as you're trying to give them the words to say that.
But you're also okay with assisting the people that don't understand that culture yet.
Yes,
Right?
it really
So-
is. Even from the moment someone walks in, it's a very disarming kind of environment. It's like, hey, what's up? Like, how can we help you? It's not
Right.
like the ones with the big crystal chandeliers and they're like, hi, welcome to such and such. And
Right. So
and you're like
you just
nervous.
disarm everything really quickly by being just a
Yeah,
laid back, casual environment
very much
and
so.
let people know to be open. So I've
Yeah.
had a lot of conversations on gender bias and how to navigate moving forward. And it so we just talk about this a little bit. I know we're in touchy grounds for the world right now, right?
Yeah.
I find it very frequently a little frustrating for someone of my age and my background that whenever I make assumptions and they're wrong, I feel like sometimes I get some backlash. And my point was, well, if I didn't know, I'll respect whatever I know, but sometimes, I mean, we're living in a brand new world, right? How
Totally.
and the only thing that I've heard so far that just levels this playing field is that when you introduce yourself, you should introduce yourself with your pronouns. Is that
Right.
something that you're adopting? Now, I'm just getting rid of pronouns in my life and moving to non-gender pronouns, right? The team
I love it.
and those kinds of things, right? Because I don't want to exclude. I mean, I run a business that the clients are primarily women, like 80% women. So,
Yeah.
and for years we yelled out guys in every single class that they're teaching them, and we say guys regularly, right? And we have, I mean, a lot of openness there, and nobody really seemed to care. But it seems like now, or if they did care, they didn't say anything. But we've removed that language completely.
Yeah.
At that point, from as a non-binary person, whose responsibility is that to educate? Is it what would be considered today the outliners or the mainstream, right? Should the mainstream be adopting the pronoun verbiage, or should somebody that wants to be a non-traditional pronoun would be the right phrase
Sure.
for that? I'm not
Okay.
sure.
Okay.
Right. Whose responsibility is it to communicate that?
I think it's a two-part thing. I think, I was on a Zoom call the other day, and one of the people had she, her in her
Right.
little name thing. And I thought it was really cool because that creates space for someone whose pronouns are not that to be like, to not feel like, hi, it's me, you know, and for it not to feel so awkward. I think it's also a two-part thing on like the ones who are different from the heterosis norm, that to have patience. Like, this is a new concept. Like, that person has had to do a lot of work to get to that point. Like, extend that grace and patience that you've had with yourself to get to that point on your own journey, to other people who don't have the same background, who haven't had the same mindset, the same experiences that you have had, and
Right.
and also on the flip side of like, educate yourself, dude. Like, the world is changing every day. And I think one of the problems that I see with people who I say are older, but then I hear a 26-year-old say this, but it's just like, when you're constantly judging today by like yesterday's standards, it's really like, it doesn't fit. That's old, you
Right.
know? And I think like you see that in older generations. They're like, well, back in my day. And you're like, yeah, but it's not. It's a new time. And we're all learning and bumbling and fumbling and trying to
Yeah.
figure this shit out.
Back in my day, it was cool to smoke at 12, right? That's not cool anymore. So let's
Yeah,
just keep growing. And I get it, right? I know that people look at me and they think, oh, I'm a middle-aged white guy. I don't understand what's going on. And they immediately assume that I have some bias. And I've run into that quite a bit, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I've been seeing that trend, the pronouns at the end on LinkedIn a lot. And I'm actually debating on changing my LinkedIn to put him, he, him
I
at the
love
end
it.
of that. And it's not because I just want, if somebody does have that, I want them to know that it's okay when they introduce themselves to me to let them know that that's the case. So I don't think I'm placating anybody or really jumping into that, narrative, or, I don't think that I'm supporting or being negative towards that narrative at all.
It's just literally opening the door for the conversation.
Right. And then that's making people more comfortable in their surroundings to be themselves. And
Yes.
for me, I mean, I'm probably not going to introduce myself for a very long time as hi, I'm Ken and my pronouns are, right?
Yeah, yeah.
In most environments. In some environments I might, right? If I think that it's a touchy situation, I want to give somebody that freedom to be themselves, then I might do that for them. But under normal circumstances, I don't think that I would. But that leads me to a really big question that you had said before. It's what good leaders do, right? And you're running a business, and sometimes you want to be a leader, you want to be a great leader, right? But you never asked to be a leader, right? This is not something you're like, I'm going to be a leader tomorrow, right? But you're not put in this position. But sometimes you still have to be a boss, right? And being a boss and being a leader are two different things. How do you do you have any tricks to, like, how do you switch gears? Because I know sometimes I get caught in that leadership role so much that I forget to be a boss. And then literally shit's decaying around that person's position because they're not doing their job. And I'm like, oh, they also have to do their job, right? We have to figure that out too. So, where
I understand.
Do you have a place where that line is, or is it just always going to be lost in the gray?
I don't know, man. I think it's just a balance. I really think it's just a balance of like, I want to hear about your weekend. By the way, wipe down your mat, and also here's how to respond to that difficult client. You just kind of have to find that balance and like listen to yourself. I don't think enough people like listen to their selves when they're coaching someone. And so it just sounds like they're barking out orders and of like, oh, do this, let me go down the list of things that you didn't do. And it's just like, nobody wants that,
No,
but I think
it's
you
challenging.
like, remember that human element.
Right. And sometimes it's just not the right job for that person, right?
Yeah.
It's not a good fit. So it's okay to, I find it interesting that people think that they're going to have this job and they like value themselves based on their job, and it's just not. They get paid the wage that the job's willing to pay for that task, not necessarily. It's in no way their value, right?
Yeah.
if we can't pay people their actual value to do work for an hour, right? We wouldn't have the system doesn't work that way. So it's always a challenge, but they get really upset if it doesn't work out, right? And then they look back at you, and as a leader, that's really hurtful, right? But at some point, you're like, hey, I wasn't being a leader at that point. I was just being your boss. And
I think it's kind of like, when you're trying to convince someone of your point of view and
pointless.
Instead of sitting across, I know, right? Every argument, every fight you've ever had with anyone, you're sitting across from them versus next to them,
Right.
And, I had to let someone go. I brought her on for a couple of days, and, I was like, ooh, this is not it for you, baby. And, I had someone comment, they're like, she was thanking me at the end of the conversation.
Right.
And it was just like, oh man, I think I'm like starting to not suck at this, because I was like, when you really address like the heart of the issue versus what their behavior is doing or what like the symptoms of, like, okay, well, I see you want these things, you're killing it at these things, compliment sandwich, but also like, what are your real goals here? And if my agenda and my stuff does not line up with your goals, like, go do you.
Right.
Like, then I'm not the fit for you versus you not being the fit for me,
Absolutely. It's a separation. Generally, it's a good thing, right, for both parties if it's not a good fit, right?
You don't want to walk away.
It's like staying married for the kids, right? It's not.
Yes.
It's not the right thing to do. So
yeah.
Wonderful. Awesome. So you've got one salon today or multiple salons?
So I have one salon. It has 12 chairs.
Okay.
And so I have several humans running around.
Yeah.
Um I'm looking to do more. I'm looking to do some barber shops, but also, you know, I'm excited about getting to work with some of my staff that's been with me for quite a while. If me achieving my dreams also helps you achieve your dreams, I'm super into it.
Absolutely. So is that a situation like people that have been with you in the beginning can maybe launch out and have a level 101 in a different location maybe?
Oh,
Is that kind of
definitely.
what? Yeah.
Mhm.
Awesome. I think you've got a really cool concept to cater to the fringe of society. Not that they're the outliers,
I,
right?
I understand. I
They're not
understand.
the mainstream, right? The
For
mainstream
sure.
is the Fantastic Sams and the hair saloons and the great
Yeah.
clips, right? That's the mass market, and you're going
Yeah.
to say, no, I'm not. That's not what we are. We're a little more gritty. Would be a term that I would, if I could
That's
picture
fair.
your shop,
Like
right?
professionalism with some grit.
Yeah. You can come in and be who you are, and that's
Yeah.
not just cool because you can do that at Great Clips, but it's not
Yeah.
welcomed there, right? It's not
Yeah.
requested there to be yourself. It's
Yeah.
requested to come in, give me your credit card, sit down in this cold, sterile place, and leave. And
Yeah.
hopefully you hit a 5-star review on your way out the door, and they're looking at
Honestly,
different
though,
metrics.
you saying that with the 5-star review, like honestly, that's super important because it does, when you create that space to be authentic, you're creating the space for the client to be like, this isn't quite what I had in mind. I kind of wanted
Right.
it like slightly more this way. Um, it's so much more client satisfaction, and we have a great rating and I'm very happy about it. But it's really all been specifically because of that, because it's like, no, we really worked to give you the space to say, this is what I want.
Right. And you're not creating. I mean, you didn't create a hair salon. You created a community inside your
Yeah,
community for people to
very
have a
much
safe
so.
place to come and hang out and
Absolutely.
get their hair done weekly, monthly, however frequently they do it. Back in the day, the barber shop was a very common place for people to just go and hang out and
Hey,
talk and
yeah.
yeah, I mean that was very very common, and I think we've lost a lot of that in society. Hopefully that's one of the things that COVID brings back is that these kind of meeting places that we can go to, and because we got so fast in society that everything was moving so quickly.
Yeah.
COVID made everybody slow down a little bit, and maybe that's one of the benefits that we get long term from this horrible
you know
pandemic.
that's the case. Like, I'm so here for it.
Yes. So obviously, if you're in Dallas and you're looking for a new place to get your hair cut, styled, whatever, level 101, how would they reach out to you? How would they get in contact with you or find you?
They can call the shop number. Texting is always wonderful.
Yes.
And we really try to pair the client with the stylist that's best for them. So, we ask a few more questions initially on someone wanting to book their appointment.
Right.
Uh, because we want them to stay with that stylist. So yeah, text or call or follow on Instagram, and then it has in the bio the link of everyone's all the stylists and barbers handles.
Okay. So you can look at all the stylists and kind of create a relationship with your stylist.
Yeah.
Wonderful. And on the business side, is there anything that you're looking for or need for growth? If somebody's out there watching, are you looking for investors or maybe some help on franchising or anything like that? Or are you happy where you're at right now?
Franchising would be a cool option. I think it's a good concept that's moldable in different areas. I'm sorry, when I say areas, I'm thinking cities.
Correct. Yeah, all over the country, right?
Right,
we're
right.
having, and I don't want to make assumptions because or say the wrong words because I don't want to get myself into a whole lot of trouble. Now that Twitter's open space, who knows what's going to happen, right? But the creating safe places for the non-mainstream people, I think is a wonderful business, and I honestly believe that non-mainstream people is going to be the mainstream in the
Yeah.
future, right? I mean,
Yeah.
everybody we don't live in a world of ors anymore. It's ands, and it can be
Yeah.
anything that anybody wants to be. So, and I think it's important that
Absolutely.
as time goes and more stuff's automated away, there's less jobs for everybody. Storytelling and individuality is what's going to be what we value in our country, probably more
Yeah.
than anything else. So I think you're on a wonderful trail, and thank you for doing that. It's
Yeah.
important.
Thank you.
I mean, it's cutting hair, but it's important work. It's changing the world all at the same time, one little step at a time. So thank you for doing that. Is there
Yeah.
anything that you would like to leave the audience with? Words of wisdom, tips or tricks, or anything like that?
I'd say for clients, really just being honest with your stylist. You know,
Yeah.
like nobody wants the surprise.
Right.
You know, that, and you know, for stylists and young stylists, you know, I know the first like year or two outside of school is so important, and there's this whole wave of people that decided to go to hair school right after lockdown, you know, and so there's this surge of new new artists, whether barbers or stylists, like don't give up. You see it so often.
Right.
Like if you're not at a space that's the right fit, move on. Like quick to say yes, but be quick to say no.
Right.
Like just there is a home for you. Just keep looking, because there's so much within the industry, and it's so, when you don't have someone kind of helping you light the way or giving you any direction, it's really easy to get lost,
Yes.
you know. And so I would just say, like, just keep at it, just don't give up.
Awesome. I agree. If it's what you want to do, if it's no
Oh,
longer your
absolutely.
passion, cut the cord,
Totally.
find something else. Right.
Yeah.
If it's not your
Yeah,
passion,
yeah.
if you're like, hey, I thought I'd like this, I don't really like it, you tasted it, get out if you don't like it. But if you
Oh,
don't like
totally,
it
totally.
because of your coworkers or something like that, find a different solution or create your own space. Right.
Yes,
It's
absolutely.
very easy. I did have one other question.
Yeah.
What's with the name Level 101?
Oh, so level being like, I see what you have, want to level that up. You know, want to upgrade
Okay.
you. And then also it's being like a gradient with fades of, like, you know, the different levels of, like, you know,
Okay.
even guards, and then also levels of hair color, like when you're like light to dark, like a 1 is super dark and a 10 is the lightest, so it's levels.
Okay, I get it. I had a different concept, but I'll talk to you about that after the show, which you can adopt if you want to. But awesome. Thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate it. I had a blast talking to you, and I hope we get to talk again sometime.
Hey, likewise, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for
Awesome.
your time.
All right, take care.
That's it for today's show, folks. If you'd like to join my text line community, the number is 314-370-2871. All you have to do to join that text line is send me any question about business or technology. I'll do all the research, and I'll give you an absolutely free, totally unbiased answer. Get to work.